Most people drift through life like ships without a compass, busy, but lost. They wake up, go to work, come home, and wonder why nothing ever changes. But the truth is simple: they don't know where they're going. And when you don't know where you're going, every wind feels like a storm. If you could see how much of your potential is wasted by indecision, you'd never live another day without a direction. In this video, you're going to learn how to find your definite direction, not the one the world hands you, but the one that already lives inside you. You'll discover the law of direction, how purpose gives your life meaning, how clarity transforms confusion into confidence, and how knowing where you're going turns ordinary effort into unstoppable progress. If you've ever felt lost, restless, or stuck in motion without growth, this will help you find your compass again. Because the truth is, life doesn't reward those who work the hardest. It rewards those who work towards something specific. And by the end of this message, you'll know exactly how to define that purpose and begin walking toward it with confidence. Every person, at some point, feels that quiet sense of restlessness, that feeling that they're moving, but not arriving. They work harder, they do more, but deep down, they know something's missing. That something is direction. You can have talent, ambition, and opportunity, but without a clear destination, they cancel each other out. Think of it like a ship without a chart. It can have the finest captain and the strongest sails, but without a destination, it drifts wherever the current pulls it. Most people live that way, reacting to life instead of creating it. But here's the truth few ever realize: the moment you decide where you're going, everything begins to change. Life starts to align. The right people appear, ideas connect, you stop chasing and start moving, with calm purpose. Because when you know your direction, life finally begins to cooperate with you. Here's something most people never stop to think about. Every creature on Earth seems to know where it's going except man. The bird knows when to migrate. The salmon knows when to swim upstream. The seed knows exactly what it must become once it's planted. Only man, endowed with the greatest mind of all, often drifts without direction, busy, active, but unsure of purpose. And because of that, most people spend their lives moving but never arriving. You see, life rewards direction, not motion. It doesn't matter how fast you're going if you don't know where you're headed. The tragedy is that activity can feel like progress. You can fill your days with work, conversation, and distractions, and still be no closer to what you truly desire. A person without purpose wakes each day reacting to circumstances instead of directing them, and in doing so they hand control of their life to chance, to whatever wind happens to blow hardest that day. But the person who knows where they're going holds a quiet power. Even if they move slowly, every step has meaning. Even if progress is invisible, it's deliberate. Purpose turns ordinary work into a sacred act. It transforms effort into progress and difficulty into discipline. When you know your destination, you no longer waste energy on detours. You no longer chase every opportunity or fear every setback, because both now serve a single path. That's the beauty of purpose. It gives shape to every moment and reason to every challenge. Think of it like this: a ship without a destination drifts endlessly. No captain, no map, no port. The waves push it wherever they will, and in the end it breaks apart on the rocks of chance. But give that same ship a charted course and a steady hand, and it will reach its harbor no matter the storms along the way. That's the law of direction. The moment you set a definite goal, your mind begins to organize your thoughts, your actions, and even your environment to serve that aim. The world, which once felt random, begins to align itself with your intention. Now here's the curious thing: most people never choose. They wait. They wait for clarity, for luck, for some sign that tells them where to go. But waiting is not a plan. It's surrender disguised as patience. You'll never find purpose by chance. It reveals itself only to those who decide. And that decision doesn't have to be perfect, it only has to be real, because a direction chosen with sincerity will correct itself through experience. A ship moving can always adjust its course. One anchored in hesitation cannot. When you live with purpose, your energy changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. People begin to notice a calm certainty about you, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to explain itself. Because when you know where you're going, you stop competing with others. You start cooperating with your own destiny. Every obstacle becomes part of the path instead of a reason to stop. And every failure becomes a teacher instead of a sentence. So, ask yourself, do you know where you're going? Or are you simply moving because the world around you is moving? Because here's the truth, without direction, life becomes noise. You can't measure success if you haven't defined it. You can't feel fulfillment if you don't know what it's for. The moment you decide on a definite purpose, your thoughts take shape, your mind begins to focus, and the law of direction begins to guide you like a compass toward the life you were meant to live. Once you understand that purpose gives life its meaning, the next question becomes inevitable: how do you discover yours? Because it's one thing to know the value of direction, but another to find the destination worth dedicating your life to, and that's where we turn next. Here's something that may surprise you. Your purpose is not something you find by accident, nor does it suddenly appear one day in a flash of inspiration. Purpose is discovered through quiet reflection, through thought, through decision. The reason so few people ever find it is because they never stop long enough to listen to themselves. They spend their lives moving from one thing to another, looking for meaning in the next job, the next distraction, the next approval, never realizing that purpose isn't out there in the world. It's here, within you, waiting for recognition. You don't stumble upon it, you uncover it, layer by layer, by asking the right questions and having the courage to answer them honestly. The question, "What do I truly want?" is one of the most powerful and terrifying questions a person can ask, because it forces you to confront your truth. Not what others expect of you, not what will impress society, not what's safe or easy, but what speaks to the deepest part of you, the part that feels alive when you imagine doing it. That's where your purpose hides, beneath the noise of obligation and fear. Most people never find it because they ask everyone else what they should do, instead of asking themselves who they wish to become. You see, purpose is not born from comparison, it grows from authenticity. It's the alignment between what you love, what you're good at, and what serves others. It's where your passion meets usefulness. It's not selfish, true purpose always contributes. When you discover it, you'll feel it because it gives energy rather than drains it. You wake up in the morning with a sense of direction, and your days no longer feel random. Even the smallest tasks carry meaning because they lead somewhere definite. But how do you uncover it? Begin with stillness. Take time alone to think, really think. We live in a world where people will do anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts, yet all great decisions begin there. The mind, when left quiet, begins to speak. Ask yourself, if success were guaranteed, what would I choose to do with my life? Don't analyze the answer, just write it down. Don't censor or calculate, let your heart speak freely. What appears on that paper might surprise you, but it will always tell the truth. It's important to understand that purpose is not a single event, it's a direction. It's the guiding principle behind what you do, not necessarily the title or the role. A person's purpose can take many forms over time, but the essence remains the same. The farmer, the teacher, the writer, the entrepreneur, they may all serve different functions, yet their purpose might be identical: to create, to teach, to uplift, to grow. What matters is not the form but the force behind it. The mind, once given a definite aim, begins to work like a magnet. It organizes your thoughts, draws new ideas, and attracts the people and circumstances necessary to fulfill that goal. Suddenly, coincidences begin to appear. The right book finds you, the right conversation opens a door, the right opportunity comes at the right time. It isn't magic, it's the natural law of cause and effect. A clear purpose activates the mind's creative power. Think of the gardener and the seed. Nothing grows until something definite is planted. You can prepare the soil, water it, and wait for the sun, but if you never plant a seed, no amount of care will produce a harvest. In the same way, no amount of effort or motivation will bring results if you haven't decided what you're growing toward. Most people work hard all their lives, but they never plant anything specific. Their energy scatters in every direction, producing only exhaustion. But the moment you plant a definite idea, a goal rooted in purpose, your effort takes shape. Life begins to organize around it, and growth becomes inevitable. You'll know you've found your purpose when you begin to feel a calm sense of conviction. It won't always feel easy, but it will always feel right. You'll sense that your actions matter, that they contribute to something larger than yourself. And once that clarity appears, you'll realize that purpose isn't something that asks for permission, it demands action, because purpose without movement remains potential. It's a dream waiting to be translated into reality. And that brings us naturally to our next principle. Purpose by itself is only the vision. To bring it to life, it must be shaped into structure, into a clear and organized plan, because even the most inspired goal will fade without a path to follow. That's what we'll talk about next: how to turn your purpose into a blueprint for achievement, and how to transform that vision into steady, daily progress. Here's a truth that separates the dreamers from the achievers. A dream without a plan is only a wish. Purpose gives life meaning, but without structure, it remains only an idea, beautiful yet unrealized. The greatest builders, thinkers, and leaders throughout history all understood this one principle: purpose must be given form. Just as an architect begins not with the building itself, but with a drawing, a clear blueprint, so must we translate our purpose into something definite, written, and actionable. Otherwise, the best of intentions dissolve into the fog of distraction. A plan is purpose made visible. It is thought given shape. It's not enough to know where you want to go, you must map out how to get there. And it doesn't have to be complex. The most effective plans are simple. They reduce the vastness of a vision into small, daily actions that compound quietly over time. Because success is rarely one giant leap forward, it is the steady rhythm of consistent steps in a single direction. Yet most people never write their plan. They talk about their dreams, they think about their goals, but they never put them down in clear written form. And because of that, they never hold themselves accountable to them. There's power in writing. When you take a pen and define your purpose on paper, something happens inside the mind. It becomes real. The subconscious begins to respond. It starts to notice opportunities it once ignored, ideas it once dismissed. The simple act of writing down a goal sends a command to your deeper self: this is who I am, and this is what I will achieve. That's why every great teacher, from the earliest philosophers to the modern thinkers, emphasized clarity of purpose in writing. Because a written goal is no longer just a thought, it's a declaration. It tells your mind what to focus on, your energy where to flow, and your actions what to serve. Once you've written your purpose, the next step is to translate it into action, not someday, but today. Break it down into specific, measurable, achievable steps. Ask yourself, what can I do today that moves me even 1 inch closer to my goal? That question is the bridge between thought and achievement. You see, people fail not because their dreams are too big, but because their plans are too vague. They think in generalities and wonder why results never come. The mind cannot act on fog, it can only act on form. The moment you give your dream definition, you give it life. Think of the architect again. He doesn't start laying bricks the moment he's inspired by a vision of a great cathedral. No, he spends days, weeks, even months carefully drawing the structure, measuring every line, planning every detail. Only then does he begin to build, knowing that each brick laid is guided by a design that cannot fail. The same applies to your life. You must become the architect of your own future. You must draw the design that will guide your effort and hold your course steady when distractions and difficulties arise. And here's the great advantage of a written plan: it replaces motivation with discipline. Motivation is fleeting, it depends on emotion. Discipline, however, is steady. It doesn't care whether you feel inspired or not, it simply follows the plan. Systems and structure remove the need for constant decision-making. When your path is clear, your only task is to walk it. That's how great lives are built, not through bursts of energy, but through consistent action guided by clear design. There's a certain peace that comes from this kind of living. When you rise each morning knowing exactly what to do and why you're doing it, anxiety disappears. You stop questioning yourself. You no longer waste time wondering whether you're on the right path, because you've already decided where that path leads. And as you act, the law of momentum begins to work for you. Progress, however small, builds confidence. Confidence strengthens faith, and faith in turn sustains action. It becomes a cycle of growth that compounds naturally, quietly, inevitably. Every goal, every purpose, every dream, no matter how grand, is built in this same way, by organizing thought into order and moving forward, one deliberate step at a time. You don't need to see the entire staircase to take the first step. You only need to trust that your plan will reveal the next one. That's what the blueprint is for. It doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It gives you structure to move through it. So, write your purpose, divide it into parts. Create a daily rhythm that reflects your highest aim. Then begin. Start small if you must, but start. A single written line today can change the entire direction of your life. Because once you've built your plan, something powerful begins to happen. Life itself starts to cooperate. Events line up. Opportunities appear. People show up at the right time. The universe, it seems, loves clarity, and it moves in harmony with those who act upon it. But even the best plans are tested. There will be days when doubt creeps in, when progress seems invisible, when the goal feels distant and the effort heavy. And it's in those moments that another law must carry you forward, the law of faith. Because while plans give direction, faith gives endurance. It is faith that allows you to keep building when the results haven't yet appeared. And that's what we'll explore next: how to hold your course amid uncertainty, and why faith is the quiet force behind every lasting success. There comes a time in every worthwhile pursuit when the excitement fades, when the results seem distant, and when doubt begins to whisper in the quiet corners of your mind. This is the moment that separates those who merely wish from those who truly achieve, because in that uncertain space between effort and reward lives the most powerful force you'll ever need: faith. Faith is the invisible bridge between the dream and its realization. It's the ability to hold your direction when the evidence of success has not yet appeared, to keep walking when the path is shrouded in fog, to believe in the law even when you cannot yet see the result. Every great achievement in history, every invention, every movement, every discovery, all began with a person who refused to turn back when progress wasn't visible. You see, faith is not blind optimism. It's not the denial of difficulty or the naive belief that things will always be easy. Faith is the calm certainty that the laws of cause and effect never fail. It's the understanding that effort, applied consistently in the direction of purpose, must eventually yield its reward. Just as the farmer doesn't dig up his seeds to check if they're growing, the person of faith doesn't abandon his purpose because results take time. He knows that growth is happening silently, invisibly beneath the surface. He trusts the process because he understands the law. The greatest danger to progress isn't failure, it's doubt. Failure is often temporary. It teaches, it redirects, it strengthens. But doubt corrodes the will from within. It halts action before the result can appear. The doubter plants a seed and then wonders whether it will grow, waters it one day and neglects it the next, and then declares that the soil is barren. The believer, on the other hand, plants the seed once and tends to it faithfully. He knows that if he's patient, the harvest will come in its own season. That's the difference between those who drift and those who arrive. One stops when the wind changes, the other keeps his hand on the wheel and adjusts his course. Think of the pilot flying through heavy clouds. He cannot see the horizon, he cannot see the ground, but he doesn't panic. He doesn't abandon the controls and hope for luck. He trusts his instruments. He knows that even though visibility is low, direction is constant. The same principle applies to your life. There will be times when you cannot see where your effort is leading, when the outcome feels hidden and progress invisible. In those moments, your faith must be your instrument panel. It reminds you of your course. It tells you that though the sky may be dark, you are still on track. Every person who ever accomplished something extraordinary lived through that same darkness. The inventor working long nights without recognition, the artist perfecting his craft in obscurity, the entrepreneur who failed a dozen times before success. The difference between them and the countless others who gave up wasn't talent, it was endurance. It was the steady belief that what they sought was already possible, and that the only thing required was continued effort in harmony with that belief. Faith doesn't make the path easy, it makes it possible. It's the quiet fire that burns long after excitement fades. When others quit, faith whispers, keep going. When fear says, what if it doesn't work? Faith answers, what if it does? It transforms adversity from a wall into a stepping stone. Every obstacle, every delay, every setback becomes part of the strengthening process. Because faith doesn't remove challenge, it gives you the strength to rise above it. Now, faith isn't passive. It's not about sitting still and waiting for the universe to deliver. Faith acts. It works. It persists. It does today what others postpone until tomorrow, because it knows that progress is never wasted. Every step, even the smallest, moves you closer to the summit. You may not feel the climb day by day, but one morning you'll look up and realize you're standing on the very peak you once doubted you could reach. And something beautiful happens once you learn to live by this law. Fear begins to lose its power. You stop worrying about whether you'll succeed because you understand that success is a natural outcome of consistent, faithful effort. You no longer question whether your goal is possible because you've seen the evidence in small ways every day. You've felt the invisible hand of progress guiding you, strengthening you, rewarding your persistence. That quiet assurance, that calm inner certainty, is the true mark of faith. So, when you find yourself in that period between planting and harvest, when the nights feel long, the progress slow, and the results unseen, remember that this is where your faith is tested and proven. Don't turn back. Don't question the law. Keep working, keep believing, and keep moving forward with quiet conviction. Because if your purpose is true, and your plan is sound, and your faith is steadfast, then success is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of time. And when that time comes, when the results finally appear and others call you lucky or gifted, you'll know the truth. You'll know that the only thing separating them from you was this: you stayed the course when they did not. You trusted the unseen when they demanded proof. You believed in the law a long patch, enough for it to prove itself. And it always does. It never fails. And that brings us to the final truth, in this great journey, the reward. Because purpose gives you direction, planning gives you structure, and faith gives you endurance. But all of it leads somewhere to the quiet strength, the peace, and the joy that come only from knowing exactly where you're going and walking toward it with unwavering confidence. There's a kind of peace that no amount of comfort or wealth can buy, the peace that comes from knowing exactly where you're going. It's a quiet strength, a deep, calm assurance that carries you through the noise of the world. You stop rushing, you stop comparing, you stop doubting, because you've found something solid to stand upon: purpose. Most people live their lives like leaves in the wind, carried wherever the breeze happens to blow. They wake up each day reacting to whatever comes their way, mistaking motion for progress and busyness for meaning. But once you discover your purpose, once you set your direction, everything changes. You begin to live deliberately. Your days gain order, your choices gain weight, and even your struggles gain meaning. You realize that everything that happens, whether success or setback, fits perfectly into the greater pattern of your growth. When you live without direction, life feels heavy. You wake up with no reason stronger than habit. The smallest inconveniences disturb your peace. Every distraction feels like an invitation, and every failure feels final. But when your life is guided by a definite aim, even hardship becomes bearable, because purpose turns pain into progress. It gives meaning to difficulty and transforms challenge into fuel. The person who knows where they're going doesn't fear the storm, they use it to strengthen their sails. Every disappointment becomes instruction. Every delay becomes refinement. The very obstacles that discourage others become stepping stones on the path of those who walk with purpose. You see, when you live with direction, confidence arises naturally. It doesn't come from arrogance or circumstance, it comes from alignment. You're no longer scattered, no longer divided within yourself. Your thoughts, actions, and desires all move in the same direction. You know what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. There's power in that kind of clarity, a quiet, magnetic force that others can feel. You no longer chase opportunity. Opportunity begins to find you. People sense when someone is moving with intention. They're drawn to it, inspired by it, and often guided by it without even realizing why. It's like the river flowing toward the sea. It doesn't rush in panic, and it doesn't doubt its destination. It simply moves forward, day after day, cutting through rock, curving through valleys, nourishing the land as it goes. It may twist and turn, it may be slowed by obstacles, but it never loses its direction. That's what purpose does. It makes your life like that river. You stop resisting and start flowing. You become patient, persistent, and peaceful all at once. You know that every experience, the easy, the difficult, the joyful, and the painful, all carry you closer to your destination. And here's something beautiful. Once you begin to live with purpose, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. The noise of the world, the opinions, the doubts, the expectations fades into the background. You measure your days not by applause but by alignment. You stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and start asking, "Am I true to my path?" That simple shift in perspective changes everything. You find satisfaction in the process rather than the praise. You find peace in progress rather than perfection. And in doing so, you discover a kind of freedom that few people ever know, the freedom of self-direction. Purpose gives every moment value. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when it serves a greater aim. Even your rest becomes productive because it restores you for the journey ahead. You no longer feel the need to escape your life, because your life itself has become the adventure. Every morning carries a sense of anticipation. Every evening carries a sense of fulfillment. You live not in pursuit, but in participation, fully engaged, fully alive, and perhaps most importantly, direction gives your soul rest. You no longer feel torn between what you could do and what you should do, because you've already chosen. There's no more wandering, no more wondering. Your mind is clear, your path is sure, and your spirit is steady. That's the reward of purpose, not just success in the outer world, but serenity in the inner one. So, as you walk forward from here, remember this: life will always mirror the clarity of your direction. The world responds to decisiveness. It bends to those who move with certainty, even if their steps are small, because clarity attracts, focus multiplies, and persistence guarantees arrival. The person who knows where they're going may not always move fast, but they always move true, and eventually, inevitably, they arrive. And when they do, when they look back at the path they've traveled, they'll see that the real reward wasn't the destination at all, but the transformation that happened along the way. The peace, the confidence, the quiet power that came from living each day with intention. That's the essence of purpose. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. And that's where we end this journey, with the realization that to know where you're going is to truly begin to live. Because once you choose your direction, and commit to it with clarity, faith, and discipline, life itself begins to cooperate. The winds shift in your favor, the right people appear, the right ideas arrive, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. When you come to the end of a journey like this, when you've walked through the laws of purpose, decision, discipline, and faith, you begin to see life differently. You realize that it was never random, that it never truly lacked meaning, and that every moment, even the ones that once felt wasted, was quietly guiding you toward this understanding. You see now that direction is not just a matter of ambition, but of being awake. To know where you're going is to wake up from the sleep of drifting, to take your life back from chance and put it into the hands of intention. And from that moment on, nothing about your days feels accidental. You begin to see patterns where there once was chaos, opportunity where there once was struggle, and meaning where there once was confusion. You cannot hit a target you haven't defined. And yet, this is how most people live, hoping for progress without purpose, wishing for success without direction. They spend their years reacting, adjusting, responding, but rarely choosing. They confuse busyness for creation, movement for meaning. But the person who knows their direction, even if they start small, will travel farther than the one who runs fast with no destination in mind. Because speed without purpose is just exhaustion, and motion without aim is just noise. But purpose, even quiet, steady purpose, transforms everything it touches. It gives power to effort, focus to energy, and peace to time. Now here's something that many never realize. You don't need to have every answer before you begin. You don't need to see the entire road. You only need to see the next step, to take it in faith, and to trust that the law of direction will reveal the rest as you move. Because the great secret of life is that clarity grows with movement, not before it. The fog doesn't lift while you stand still, it clears as you walk forward. And as you do, your confidence grows, your courage strengthens, and your path unfolds in ways you couldn't have planned if you tried. So, if you take anything from this message, let it be this: decide where you're going. Don't wait for the perfect time or the perfect plan. Start with a simple question: what do I truly want? What kind of life would make me proud? What would make my time here meaningful? Write it down, define it clearly, let it be your compass. And once you've chosen, refuse to drift. Because from that moment, your purpose begins to attract what it needs: the right ideas, the right people, the right opportunities. You'll notice how life seems to meet you halfway, how coincidence becomes connection, and how the things you used to chase now begin to come to you. For the next 7 days, make this your challenge: write down your definite purpose. Read it every morning when you wake, and every night before you sleep. Let it shape your choices, guide your actions, and remind you that every moment counts. You'll begin to notice something remarkable. A sense of peace will rise inside you, a calm certainty that you are no longer wandering but walking towards something that matters. And once you taste that kind of clarity, you'll never again want to live without it. You see, direction is not just the secret to success, it's the foundation of fulfillment. It's what turns ordinary time into meaningful experience, and what transforms routine into ritual. Once you know where you're going, even the smallest task becomes sacred. Because you're no longer moving just to survive, you're moving to become. And when you finally understand this law, when you grasp that your destiny is not determined by luck but by choice, you realize something profound: that the power that guides worlds and stars and seasons also guides you. It's not separate from you, it works through you. You're not a spectator in this life, you're a creator within it. And once you align your purpose with that truth, you can never truly fail. Because life responds to clarity. The moment you decide where you're going, truly decide, the universe begins to rearrange itself in your favor. And though the road ahead may twist and turn, though the storms may rise and the winds may shift, your compass will always point you home. So, begin now. Don't wait for another day, another sign, another permission slip from life. Choose your direction, write it clearly, and move forward with faith. Because once you know where you're going, every step, no matter how small, moves you closer to everything you were meant to be. And when you're ready to understand why this law works with such precision, listen to "You Become What You Think About." It reveals the deeper secret that thought shapes direction, and direction shapes destiny. Because in the end, the great truth remains the same: we become what we think about, we move toward what we believe, and we arrive exactly where we decide to go.